Everyone, welcome to today's Teleperfect's Anonymous meeting. I have a weird sense of humor. Would any of you like to enact the mating ritual of an exotic bird with me? Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, there are many ways that human beings convey their many different emotions. When we are happy, we say yay, yippee even. When we are sad, we say daw, and it is what it is. When we are feeling just fine, we say I'm feeling just fine. You get the idea. There's a lot of different reactions we have to the different ways that we're feeling. My personal favorite, however, would have to be... Did you get that? Here, I'll do it again. I don't know how the mic's picking that up. Now, that's not a sound of pain. If you're not familiar with the sound, you're at least familiar with the feeling satisfaction. Not just general satisfaction, that split-second satisfaction where it feels as though the universe itself has turned to you. The stars have aligned with the exact purpose of scratching an itch in your brain you didn't even know was there. A sensation so brief yet so euphoric, you can't help but just blow a bit of air. Now, there are many things that can make you go. It can be a person, it can be a food, it can be a funny joke, it can be that one part in that one song where the note just hits. It can be that moment when you're in the sun, it should be hot, but there's just the right amount of a breeze. Or, the reason I'm even talking about this, it can be raw human brutality. So, this is The Raid. It's an action film. Now, some films do action. The Raid does action. There's a very important difference there. It's got that... and it's got that. Nice throw! The director of the film went on record stating that as a child, his favorite word was visceral, and he'd spent his entire life trying to create something worthy of it, and this is it. Every hit is fast and, well, punchy. It looks good. Like, really good. Like, I know this was filmed in a safe environment by a bunch of professionals with medics on standby, but that guy totally just died. And there's a reason for that. It's because everyone doing these fights can actually do that shit. Not just that, the main actors actually choreograph the damn thing. Since everyone fighting is a professional, they can trust each other to make the right move and be in the right place, so they have the confidence to make the hits look good without worrying about killing each other. Because of that, the director doesn't have to use close-up, quick-cut shaky cam to hide the fact his actors are fighting like a pair of Muppets. So you can afford to have these full-body wide shots that provide so much visual clarity. You can see every hit and every move. You're not stuck wondering who's winning, who has the power, because you can see it. There's this great shot, this is a really well directed movie by the way, where our protagonist, Johnny Raid, slashes at this guy. We get a wide shot, he goes down to the right. Johnny is center frame and he's about to bring the blade down on him. We are fully focused on this side of the screen, so both us and Johnny are surprised by this guy on the left, who grabs Johnny and pulls him off course. That is such a fun, fluid, and dynamic shot, and the whole movie's like that. The story is okay. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's good enough that I'd recommend actually watching the movie instead of just finding the fight scenes on YouTube. The reason I say that is because the story adds valuable perspective on the fights. See, The Raid is an action film, but it's also a survival horror film. Johnny Raid is a rookie in a SWAT team. They are performing a raid on a building that is to thugs what a brick is to bugs. They have the equipment, they have the manpower, but unbeknownst to them, they lack the element of surprise. The team is cut down, leaving a handful wounded and hiding, trying to find a way out. What this movie does so well is making these guys seem vulnerable. They aren't action heroes, they get hurt. They're like sacks of meat in a dog pound, just hoping they won't get sniffed out. That fight against the Machete Gang is so intense because Johnny ran like Scooby-fucking-Doo to avoid that fight. It is only once he is cornered with no other options that he decides to chance it. Just nice to see a film that doesn't downplay how dangerous one dumbass with a knife can be. It leads to one of my favorite film scenes ever. I mean, the tension. They can't leave. They just have to hope they won't get hit. Wait. No. I take it back. This scene sucks, actually. Why did he turn the knife horizontal? Have you tried that? It's not comfortable. He had a good rhythm going, and then he was like, well, I guess I'll twist the knife. I realize a cheek scar is much cooler than not having a nose, but come on. My intelligence is feeling insulted, and I'm sensitive about that. I think the movie misses a great opportunity by not making the character Mad Dog mute. Because he has this small monologue where he says, and I quote, "I'm a proper sick puppy, I love the thrill of the kill." But I don't really think that was necessary. Because of his physicality, the lighting, the way the camera moves around him, you can already tell. Obviously it still works well with the dialogue, but I think having a man dead to rights, then choosing to put the gun down so he can kill him the old-fashioned way, says the same thing better without the words. I thought that part near the end, where Johnny gets transported to some sort of spirit realm and told that he has the spirit of some mythological figure called the Raider, was kind of just weird, especially considering nothing else in the movie is even remotely supernatural, and Johnny doesn't even fight that much better after the vision. I get that the director probably had some passion for the fantasy genre, but this just shouldn't have been in the movie. I've got to mention, the first time I watched this film, it was locked in 360p and had no subtitles. No, I will not tell you why. And watching it again, now with subtitles, I've got to say, the plot is exactly what I thought it was. Without knowing what anyone was saying, I understood exactly what was being said. Which, hey, take that as you will, I mean it as a good thing. Regardless, the narrative is well written, acted, and directed, and the horror approach gave the action scenes a lot more weight than could have been otherwise. It also felt really unique to see horror in a film with no supernatural elements. The Raid set a different kind of bar for action films. Being an incredibly solid movie made on a shoestring budget, it's a tough film to live up to.
Oke, sekarang buka bajunya. Semuanya.
So The Raid 2 is one of the best movies ever made. This is everything a sequel is supposed to be. Better action, better story, better characters. Most importantly, it's not just a repeat of the first film. It starts only a few hours after the first movie ended. Due to the events in the tower block, Johnny is on a lot of nasty nuts hit lists. For the safety of him and his family, Johnny has to go undercover right in the heart of organized crime to weed out those that mean him harm. Now, there are a couple of things that'll stand out about The Raid 2. First thing is, this movie is beautiful. The Raid 1 is an ugly movie. It's set in an intentionally cheap and unpleasant location, and the saturation is turned way down to the point the film looks almost black and white, which must have been done because it was a cheap way to make the movie look more cinematic. Though underneath all that, you could see that Gareth Evans, the director, had a good creative eye. And with the sequel's bump in budget, you could really feel that he had the freedom he needed to make a damn good looking movie. So many different settings, a vast array of colors, symmetry, no symmetry if only there was a word for that. There's a lot of films that are fun to watch, but this one was a pleasure to look at. It's a rare kind of movie you've just got to pause at some points and say,
"That belongs in a museum!"
If you had told me that, of all films, The Raid 2 was going to be an every frame a painting movie, I would have said, what is this? Who are you? How did you get in my house?
No, wait.
The other thing you'll notice about The Raid 2 is that it is a wordy gal. Which is funny because there was so little dialogue in the first Raid movie that the entire script was printed on just 2 pieces of paper and a kid's cardboard box of raisins from the 60s. But this movie, in the first minute, is just...
Dan gua pengen lu bantuin saya untuk melacak yang lebih banyak.
Juga kan tahu sendiri.
Udah 20 tahun.
Yang begitu tahu musuh akan belajar
I remember watching this for the first time, I was completely blindsided by just how much information I had to keep track of. It's not confusing, there's just a lot of it over a long period of time. This is a 2.5-hour movie. For example, at the end of the film, this guy Razor shows up. And this is an important thing. Oh, Razor's there? Well, butter my biscuits, let's do this. But there's a problem. Razor has not been seen or mentioned since the start of the film. At least 90 minutes have passed since this guy had any immediate relevance to the plot, and so much has happened in that time that when he finally does show up, you can't remember why he's important. So the plot is just a little bit hard to follow. I think the movie does a bit too much telling and not quite enough showing, which can make it hard to put names to faces, especially if those names aren't really in your lexicon.
Does anyone here speak English?
Contrary to the first film, which I understood even though I didn't know what anyone was saying, when I first watched this one, I did have subtitles, and watching it for the second time just last night, I now realize I had no idea what this film is about. Because I was barely conscious and expected casual viewing, but it's not that kind of movie. You need to be ready to watch this. I now have to clarify, the writing's not bad. An action film deciding to get a bit too wordy can be a bit detrimental. Look, Baby thinks he's a real movie. But the story here is actually really good. I'm not normally a fan of these people sitting around and talking about power structure type of movies, but this one worked so well for me, I think because it's very character focused. Everyone in this movie is interesting. Some of them are quite deep, you get a lot of material to gauge their goals. Even characters who don't get much screen time, whom we know almost nothing about, feel like three-dimensional characters. Is that the right amount of dimensions? I don't know. There's a few reasons for this. Great dialogue, great performances, and the ways they all interact with each other. Just a few small gestures, but they go a long way to giving these characters a sense of history. The movie may be wordy and a bit overcomplicated, but I wanted to understand it. One complaint I do have is that the narrative kind of feels like two separate stories that aren't so much connected as they are just together. Johnny is the main character at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film. In the middle of the film, he's not even on screen much because he is sidelined by Uko. Uko is pretty much the main character of this film. He has the scenes, he has the arc, and so it feels a little off that Johnny, who is also the main character, is almost completely passive to Uko's story. I think Johnny should have been with Uko during his more pivotal scenes as his bodyguard or something, so that at the end, when Johnny comes in to clean up Uko's mess, it feels like more of a payoff. It also would have helped if Uko had any redeeming qualities. As it is, he's just a thug. He's well humanized through a fantastic performance that really highlights the fact he's effectively a child in desperate search of validation, but considering he's got more spotlight than the main character of the film, I think it really would have helped if we were given any reason to not want him dead.
Awasin saya.
In the first film, Johnny was kind of a boring protagonist. He wasn't particularly smart or charismatic, he was just a dude who was kind of nice and could kick a lot of ass. They even gave him a pregnant wife. Whoa, that was a close one. I wasn't sure I should root for the guy or not, but now that I know he's an upstanding citizen. In this film though, Johnny is tragedy personified. He is a man who went into work, and because of that, his brother is dead, his family has to go into hiding, he has to go undercover in prison for 2 years, he has no allies, and everyone is trying to kill him. He has been so unjustly fucked at every corner, and then he gets a minute of peace, and he just wants to hear his son. That is when you are in. Whatever happens, you just want to see this guy come out okay so he can see his family, and once again, the story serves the action beautifully. The movie is actually less action-heavy than the first film. There isn't less action, there's just more in between. Which I'd say actually gives it more impact when it does come around. It's still beautifully impactful. The final half hour is almost entirely action. That sounds exhausting, right? It is, but that's the point. Johnny is thrown in the deep end. He has fight after fight, each tougher than the last. It's almost like a video game. The whole time he is just getting hacked away at. I love this part where he hits a guy so hard, it sends the camera spinning. I do like my action quirky. It all culminates in a 7-minute fight scene. That's right, just 2 guys, no dialogue, 1 room, no change in scenery, completely uninterrupted for 7 minutes. This is the description for the wrong movie. Seriously, this film does not give you time to breathe at the end. It is absolutely relentless and it is perfect. Because Johnny is also not given time to breathe, without a moment of solitude, getting a new cut or bruise every minute, and then he steps into that kitchen. He's fighting the nastiest guy in there, and he's already on his last leg, so those 7 minutes make for one of the most nail-biting fights ever put to a screen, because you feel that exhaustion with Johnny. There's this build-up with no release. You are on the edge of your seat just praying that he comes out of this okay. It is incredible. Now hug. The Raid movies are a very fun lesson in relatively grounded action. The Raid 1 is a fun movie with good action, which was thoroughly surpassed by The Raid 2, which is just a damn good movie. And so the question has to be asked, what's next? It has been stated that a third Raid movie will almost definitely never happen, which is for the best. I can't see a third movie feeling right, you know? At some point they were working on an American remake, I don't think anyone wanted that. The director has a new film with Tom Hardy coming out sometime soon, called Havoc, which cannot be the actual name of the movie. That would be like calling a horror film spooky. Regardless, I have spent many an hour in search of Raid likes, and I would be remiss if I did not share my findings with you. Headshot. The action was good, there's some nice visual flair, though the story is built out of cliches, so it's kind of forgettable. I, however, will always remember it because there's a scene where this guy takes a shotgun to the face, and instead of blowing his head off, it leaves a bunch of pellet-sized scratches. Which, you know, if that's how shotguns work, then shotguns wouldn't work. The night comes for us, really boring. Though the last couple of fights are really, really good. There's also a pretty good performance from Iko Uwais. I would not have guessed that he'd never planned on being an actor. On the one hand, I want to criticize the movie for reserving all its female characters for a three-way catfight, but on the other hand, that three-way catfight is damn near the best fight in the movie, so I decided all was forgiven. Do not watch Wu Assassins. It is not worth it. It does not become worth it. Upon realizing that Wu Assassins was not worth it, do not then watch the sequel movie, Fistful of Vengeance, yes that is a real movie, in the hopes that it will make watching Wu Assassins worth it. It does not, and you will feel like a fool that has wasted 10 hours watching nonsense. And finally, my headcanon The Raid 3. What I believe to be the true spiritual successor to these incredible films is Star Wars. This is it. This is what happened. They went to space. You can't change my mind, but please try. I need the company. I can't believe we're missing today's Telepathics Anonymous meeting. I know. I was really looking forward to showing everyone my new dog impression. I mean, you can show us if you want to. Whoa, that was good.